Hello, seventh grade. It's Mr. Burns here from my home office. Hope everyone's having a good day as you're watching this video. This is the Unit 7 Vocabulary of the Great Depression. You should have this handout with 13 vocabulary words out. And as you're watching the video, hopefully you are starting to create your own definitions, examples, or synonyms, and your own pictures and visuals. All right. Okay, so the first word is the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is the central banking system of the United States. And this is where banks go to, it's the bank for other banks to borrow money, and the bank for our government to borrow money. That's what the Federal Reserve is. And that's going to play an important role in this unit, in the Great Depression. Stock is the next word. Stock is where a business is run by the people and owned by the people that own stock in the company. There is a board of directors and there is a CEO, and they are the ones that ultimately make decisions. But the people that that own stock are the ones who own the company technically. And you can own a piece of it based on a percentage that you buy, how many stocks you buy. The more stocks you buy, the higher the percentage of the company you own. So a lot of people are buying stock during the 1920s in corporations, and this is going to lead to some other things that are going to lead to the Great Depression. So one of the things that people were doing during this time period is they're over speculating on how the company is going to do. They were basically using money that they had saved, and instead of saving it or instead of investing what they could afford, they were kind of over investing and with the expectation that the stock price was going to go up. So they might have invested like life savings and things like that. With it's no problem because the price is going to go up. And then when things didn't go up, then people were left poor, broken, unemployed, and so on. People also bought stocks on margin, and what that means is that you buy, a certain amount. You only pay some now, and then the rest later. Well, when the stock market crashes, this is going to cost people a lot of money because they're not going to have that money. They can't borrow. They're not going to have the money that they need to borrow because the banks are going to go broke and close, and people are not going to be able to. They're going to lose kind of everything they had invested in those corporations in the stock market. So that's buying on margin. This was a big blow to our economy. It looked great in the late 20s, but then once the stock market crashed, not so good. Okay, the next word that you have here is tariff. And one of the ways that we tried to recuperate during the initial stages of the Great Depression was to raise tariffs on foreign goods so that people would have to buy American products. But that comes with its issues too, because then they have to sometimes pay a higher price for American goods, even if another country can make that cheaper. So that's a tax on goods imported from other nations. That's a tariff. All right, so the word recession implies the slowing down or decline in the economy. And of course, during this time period, we're going to have nearly 1 out of 4 people, working age people, are going to be out of work. Certain areas of the country and certain industries are hit harder than others, but we entered this long period of economic recession in the early 1930s. And that's going to last through most of the 30s, even though when FDR comes in, he starts to initiate some programs. Really, what's going to ultimately get us out of the war is entering World War II and going into a wartime economy is ultimately what's going to get us out. Okay, next is unemployment. Unemployment is the number or the percentage of people who are looking for work but are not currently employed. So unemployment, like I said, is going to go up to 25% nationwide at one point during this Great Depression. And in some areas of the country, they're hit even harder, depending on where you lived and depending on the industries in that area. There are some areas that were hit even harder than that. And what that's going to lead to is a lot of migrant workers, people kind of moving around the country in search of work. And this is not just migrant workers, aren't just people from other nations who come here and search for work. It was also American citizens who were kind of moving around. And one of the most famous books about migrant workers, we have John Steinbeck writing, The Grapes of Wrath, and he's writing Of Mice and Men. These are some books about migrant workers and the Great Depression time period. Franklin Delano Roosevelt is seated at the right next to a fireplace in the White House, and these were the fireside chats that tried to, kind of using the technology, the time period, the radio, and try to instill and regain confidence of Americans through these talks, where he would kind of talk about like what some of his plans are and what we could do as a nation to heal and to get out of this economic downturn. So those are the fireside chats. And then the New Deal. The New Deal is going to be what FDR kind of campaigns to get elected, and it's really a series of programs that are funded by the federal government. They're create all kinds of different agencies and within the executive branch of the government that are going to try to put people back to work, creating different public works and work relief programs. Social Security is another example of that, to provide aid for disabled and elderly citizens who are struggling. So it's gonna allow people to get back to work, and a lot of great things are going to come out of this that we'll talk about during this unit. All right, then we have again public works. I mentioned that before, but these are things that are benefiting all people in the society. They're for public use. It could be parks, it could be highways, it could be libraries. The Baltimore Washington Parkway that connects DC and Baltimore is an example of a public works program during the New Deal. And that's a 4-lane highway that stretches from DC all the way up to Baltimore, Route 295. Social Security is a federal insurance program that's going to provide benefits to people who are unable to work because of either age or disability, something like that. If you lose a parent at a young age, you get Social Security benefits until you turn, I think, 18. Or maybe it's 21, I'm not sure, but Social Security is something we still have today, and it's a system that once you hit a certain age, you get some benefits, and the age is slowly going up over time because it's such an expensive program, and people are living so much longer now that instead of getting the benefits at 60, now you get it in the mid to late 60s. You can get it early if you want, but you don't get the full benefits. And then the last word we're going to talk about today is recovery. And this is going to be towards the end of our unit when we talk about the New Deal and getting into World War II, a period of renewed economic growth after the Depression. It's going to be the recovery, economic recovery. All right, remember you have to do the 2 columns to the right. You have to create your own definition, synonym, or example, and then an image from the internet, or you can always draw and import if you want. If you have any questions, make sure you send me an email or let me know during class. All right, thank you.